In this lesson, we're going to get an introduction to mixing materials. Alright, so let's select one of our terrains in this scene, and we're going to bring up our material editor, and let's select the type Mixed Materials. Now when we select Mixed Materials, you'll notice that the interface changes a little bit. The first thing that you should notice, and it's really important, is the hierarchy here. You'll notice that this material is now made up of two sub-materials, and this is Material 1 and Material 2. Now, whenever we are mixing materials, we create one overall mixed material out of two simple materials. Now, you could also create one larger mixed material out of two other mixed materials, okay? You just need to make sure that you're paying attention to the hierarchy in which it's built, okay? Now, we have this material that we want to create, and we want to start mixing this together. So the first thing that we need to do is determine the two materials to mix together. So let's double click on Material 1, and you'll see that it brings up another window, and it switched us back to the simple material here. Now we're back to the color and alpha, and the bumps, highlights, transparencies, and all of that. Now one thing that you will notice is that we are highlighted on Material 1 here. Okay. Now what I like to do whenever I'm mixing materials is I like to just work in one single window here, and I'll switch between the different materials this way. So right now I'm on Material 1, and I can start to edit it this way. So I'm just going to change its overall color to red. I'll hit OK on that, and then I'll go back to my material, which is my mixed material, and you can see that it's made up of this red material and this gray material. Now it's being mixed using the mixing proportions slider here. Right now it's set to 50%, so that's why I'm getting this pinkish color here. So it's mixing this red color with our gray color. Now if I want to change the material too, let's go here, and let's change its overall color to a blue color. I'll hit OK on that, and then I'll switch back to my material, and you'll see that now that appears as purple because it's now mixing these two colors together. Now the mixing proportions can be a little tricky because at 50% we are going to get a true mixing of the two materials. Now if I move to one side of Material 1 or 2, it's going to favor whichever side we're going towards. So if I go to Material 1, you'll see that it favors that red color, and there's absolutely no blue showing up here. If I go to the other side of Material 2 here, you'll see that this is now blue. Now I could even go to 55%, and it's still going to show up as blue. So we have a little bit of a problem here. We're not able to mix it as well as we would like. We want it to have a bigger range than just 50% on the mixing of this. So we're going to have several different options that are going to help us with the blending or mixing of these materials. Now the first thing that we see is distribution of materials 1 and 2. So we can drive these two materials with a function, and then we could use a filter to help us drive that function. So let's double click on our function, and let's choose just a pattern here. Let's go with this cracked pattern. Now already you're seeing how this is changing how this is mixed. Okay, so let's change this. Let's go to 0.25 in all directions here just to make this a little more interesting here. So everything that is in our black area is going to be that red color. Everything that is in our white area is going to be that blue color. And any gray materials in between are going to be mixed between those two. Now we can drive this with a filter, so we can right click and edit filter and change how this works. So I'm going to click right in here and do new key point, and let me drive this up here. Let's create one here as well, and let's knock this down. Now you can see how we're adjusting how this is going to work. Okay, so we're driving the gray areas here, and we're saying that we want them to show a little bit more red along those white areas. And in the gray areas, we want it to try and mix between the two, okay, and that sort of thing. All right. Now, that's the distribution of the materials. And then, like I said, we can drive this with a function. And let's right-click or double-click on it, choose a different function here. Let's try this grainy fractal. Okay. Now you can see how that changes that there. Now we have the mixing method here. So we can do a simple blend, or we could do a full linear blend, a full blend cubic bumps, we could cover, and then we have a color and lighting blend. Now it doesn't look like any of these have really done much to change the overall material. Now because we are using just two solid colors to mix this together, these really aren't going to show up all that well. But to put this plainly, these materials have to deal with the transitions between material 1 and material 2, and they all have something they do a little bit differently. So right now we're just going to stick with the simple blend at this point. Now to talk about the full blend on this, I'm just going to give you just a couple of quick definitions here, just to kind of get the ball rolling on how each one of these is going to work. So we have full blend linear bumps, and basically the characteristics of the two materials are blended together before the material is actually rendered. So that's going to help us with our render time, and the surface heights on our terrains and things like that are going to be blended linearly, resulting in a chamfer between both materials. So again, this is dealing with the transition from material 1 to material 2. Whenever they meet, as you can see here, we have our blue and our red here, and it's going to create kind of a chamfer in between those materials. Now with full blend cubic bumps, it's the same as the blend bumps, except heights are blended following a cubic rule. The result is a rounded chamfer between the two materials. So it's kind of like snow or rocks. Okay. Now cover, there's no smooth transition for colors, only for bumps. So material 2 seems to cover up material 1. Now inside the transition strip, which is right down here, we can begin to control that. Now color and lighting blend. In this mode, only color and lighting, or ambient diffuse light, features are used from material 2. So it's retaining all of the features of material 1. This is useful for shifting colors of a material without actually having to duplicate it. And it's kind of like where it's like we're near water or something like that. So it's one of those, it's really a technical method, and as you get a little bit more experience with it, you'll kind of see how each one of these is going to help you push one material in a different direction. So we're just going to stick with the simple blend for right now, but I want to show you what the smooth blending strip does in order to help us with our transitions. So as we push this more toward progressive, we're going to see our transitions really begin to blend here. So instead of being at like 0 and it going from red to blue, we're going to get a red and then that purple and then into blue. So we're going to get a nice and neat transition here. Okay, and as we go to 100%, you'll see now that we're getting a good transition here. If I hit OK on this and I do a render on this, it's going to look really odd at first, but what we're going to see is we're going to see some red in the areas that we would like, the purples to transition into the blues. Now, whenever you're looking at environments, very rarely is there just a transition from, grass to absolute dirt. What you're going to have is you're going to have grass, you're going to have that grass beginning to fade into the dirt itself, and then just plain dirt. Okay, so that's kind of what we're trying to get across here with these mixing materials. Okay, get a good transition. Let's go ahead and hit escape on this. We don't need to see that render out fully there. So now we've discussed the materials to mix, and now we need to get into the alpha and then even into the influence of environment. And we'll begin to talk about those in our next lesson. So I'll see you then.